Hi, my name is Joe Rivera, and welcome to the 2014 Girls on a Mission Summit. Get ready to empower the teen in your life with some real-world education and encouragement from some of today's top Christian leaders. I am super stoked about who we have for you today, actually. I'm honored to welcome a really cool dude to the Natasha's Mission family. He's not only a singer and songwriter, but he brings a story of healing, redemption, and honor to be to our summit today. And he is an online music sensation and cute to boot, Cannon Moyer. Please join me in welcoming him to the summit. Cannon, it's good to have you this morning.
Thanks for having me.
It's awesome. I appreciate you taking time out of your really busy, super schedule to make sure that we're able to enjoy this conversation. So singer-songwriter, tell me about that. How did that start?
Well, I actually started playing piano when I was 6. I would come home from church and I would preach the sermon that we had just heard, and then I would sit down at our piano and play all the music that we had just sung at church. So we essentially had church service all over again. But
natural-born ham.
Yes.
I should say that you're also coming to us all the way from Mississippi.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, awesome.
But I absolutely loved playing piano, and I loved being able to just sit down because I play by ear, and I could essentially just hear just about anything and play what I hear. But I started taking classical piano lessons, and I did that for 13 years, and I really disliked it for the first 6 years. It was tough. It was very tough. But I finally got to essentially a point that I could start playing music that I enjoyed playing of a fairly difficult level, and that's essentially how I started playing piano, and I got into piano. But I started singing when I was 15, and I did that with my church, and I did that with our praise and worship band, and started doing a little bit of recording on the side, and started working later on with a producer with the Mississippi Music Foundation, and learned a lot more about recording then. And after that, there's a lot that goes on between all of that story.
Well, we'll get to all that stuff. We'll get to all that stuff. Tell us about songwriting. Did you start were you writing songs at age 6, 10, 13?
Not really. I started writing songs when I was about 14. And I wrote some crazy songs. They didn't make sense.
Well, what were they about? I mean, at age 14, what do you write about?
They were Christian songs, but I mean, you definitely tell they were my first songs I ever wrote. And I still have a few of them recorded, and I listened to one not too long ago. But,
right. Throwback Thursday.
Right, it was a throwback. Definitely. But I did that, and I was recording on my Mac computer that I had, and didn't have much software that I was recording with, so the quality of it wasn't that great. But I enjoyed it, and I was learning. I learned a whole lot just using that software, even though it wasn't the greatest. It's actually I really learned a lot of the basics steps of recording from that.
And we should tell the world that you're a little techie as well as artistic, so you're kind of a double-edged sword, right?
I guess you could say that.
Well, I'm sure that we have a lot of young girls out there that both love music and technology, so let's talk to both of them.
Okay. Well, I'm getting my degree right now in computer science, so I've really had a great opportunity to learn a lot about computers and the way the music industry is heading. The technology, you have to really understand technology to understand the programs, because I essentially, on all of my music, I write the music, or begin recording the music, and I do all of it from scratch. And I put it all together personally, all of the beats, all of the synthesizers, all of the keyboards, all of the guitars, and everything you hear in the music.
A
I
one-man band.
essentially, and it takes a long time to do that type of thing because you have to mix it after that, master it, tweak everything. I mean, I can put 60 hours into a song pretty easy, and
Well,
it's
I can't wait to actually get to talking about your songs. I have something to share you'll enjoy. But have you always been a Christian performer?
no, ma'am, I haven't.
Well,
There was
tell us about that.
okay. Well, essentially, when I was telling you a few minutes ago that I've been involved at church with a praise and worship band. Uh, I kind of, when I left that situation, I was unfortunately, there was a lot of hurt that went on and a lot of pain that went on from that. And unfortunately, I kind of got my heart a little hardened towards the Lord because of some situations that went on at our church. And the way I handled myself coming out of that situation uh, wasn't technically the correct way of handling things. And I essentially went away from there going and thinking I'm not planning on doing any Christian music, uh, not any, at least not anytime soon.
Were
And
you still following the Lord, or were you just upset about Christian music? Or were you
I,
just upset about that situation? I mean,
I, I, I believe, I know I was a Christian at that point in time, but just my whole aspect of my Christian walk with the Lord had just really had gone essentially off a cliff at that point because I had felt like the Lord had been leading me in a direction to do music and to serve the Lord with my music abilities, and it just seemed like it had been essentially made impossible. And I'd really gotten upset about it, and really questioned God to why things were the way they were, because it made to me it made no sense. And
it wasn't going. I mean, you wanted to serve God, but it wasn't going the way that you thought it should go, and it
right,
created a lot of negative feelings. Is that
right,
right?
yes, ma'am, because I mean, and not everybody's perfect, but there was a lot of unfortunate things that went on between, me and some other people, just essentially because I was involved. And unfortunately, I can get my feelings hurt, just like anybody else.
Yeah, we're human.
But at the same time, it was my responsibility to go from that point in my life and be able to move in a positive direction rather than, having my feelings on my shoulders and, not going in the direction the Lord wanted me to go in because it just with the whole church situation that I went through, it just it, it put a really kind of a negative uh, a
No.
negative feeling about me about church in my mind, and it was unfortunate, but because that's not how the Lord intends on church to be or anything, and I really honestly I could have gone away from that situation and looked at it completely different, but unfortunately I didn't, and uh, I decided, I'm not singing any more Christian music, and I started a secular music endeavor, and I punched into that pretty hard, and I started marketing my music, my secular music, and I got a lot of attention for it as well, and I absolutely I enjoyed it, and I was like, this is working out, and it was enjoyable at the time, but when things when you're serving yourself, you expect worldly results and selfish results. And that's kind of that stage in my life.
First I want to commend you. I'm gonna ask you some other questions here, but I
Mm-hmm.
want to commend you because you remind me of something I actually read during devotion this morning, and it was talking about Daniel and how he was so convicted at a very young age, and that there is nothing that touches the heart of an adult more than the wisdom of our youth. And the fact that do you mind sharing with people how old you are?
Yes, ma'am. I'm 21.
And at 21, to have the kind of insight that you have now about the situation that you just came through. I mean, many of us are, in our 40s and 50s, still struggling to understand what it is that God wants for our life. So I want you to know that that what you're bringing to the table, not just today, but in the world in general, is really allowing people the opportunity to go, if he can do it at 21, it looks like I should listen, and there will be something important that he's going to say. So thank you for doing that. Can you tell us about during that time, did the world take over?
It did, and unfortunately, with the wrong music that I was singing, because I really felt like even through all that time, I felt like the Lord wanted me doing Christian music and using my talents to serve Him. I honestly did.
You knew.
Right, I knew, but at the same time I rejected it,
Yeah.
even though, and I even remember at one point in time in my life where I can just about I can remember that it's almost like I had a conversation with the Lord saying, Cannon, you need to be serving me with your music. And I was like, God, right now I'm doing things that I want to do, and because of situation I was wrapped up in, I was like, and on top of that, Lord, I I can't head in that direction right now because my heart's not right, and I put it off, and essentially I put it off for a few years, and
I'm sure that there are many young girls that are watching this right now that can completely understand what it is that you're saying, that they know that there's something they're being called to do, but they're just not ready to turn it over to the Lord. So, as parents, or for our parents and leaders, what kind of encouragement from the church or from the people in the church or the God people around you did you receive, or do you wish that you would have received? What kind of guidance can you give us, for any of us who may know a girl in that situation right now? What do you wish someone would have said to you, or
goodness,
did they?
my parents my parents have essentially been the main ones there helping me through all of this. I haven't really had any kind of mentoring or anything from really anyone in the church. And that's something I do wish I had because I didn't really have any support when I was in that leadership
But
position.
your parents were supporting you.
My parents supported me. Um, my friends didn't support me all that much. But I've had one friend that's I've known since seventh grade. Actually, I saw him last night. But, I mean, he's been there for me and he's supported me. But just this idea of having a bunch of friends that support you, it's not the case.
But so
But
the reality, I think, for a lot of young girls as well, is that they may feel alone.
right, and it's easy definitely to feel that way. But definitely, I mean, if I were going to say one thing, just listen to your parents because especially if they're seeking the Lord, uh, they've got godly wisdom and insight for you. And,
That's so good. So good. So during that time, I know that the world took over and some interesting things happened in your life, but do you have any regrets?
I do have regrets, and we can discuss those if you'd like. But,
I think that what I want to share is that, with so many people having so many experiences, and if you want to highlight a couple of those, I want to remind everyone that it is by grace that we're saved. We all have skeletons in the closet, but if you'd like to, take 60 seconds and share a little bit about your testimony, there may be somebody out there that feels like they're damaged and you might be able to help.
right, well, I can give you a 60-second rundown of it. So essentially, I got saved. I got saved at a very young age. I was 3.5 when I got saved. My mom couldn't believe that I had come to this conclusion at that age. Didn't even tell my dad. So that night, the night after I gotten saved, we had gone to the post office, and my mom had gone in to take some mail. My dad was sitting in the car with me, and I said, "Dad, I got saved today, and I need to get baptized." And he was like, "Where in the world did you come up with this idea?"
Are we
Because,
still talking about age 3.5?
yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am. And because at that point in my life, I'd never seen anyone be baptized, and so he asks my mom about it when she gets back in the car, and she's like, yes, he did. He made a profession of faith earlier. And my mom says that, that really put a peace in her heart that I had made a legitimate decision about my faith. And I honestly believe, that I made a legitimate decision about my faith, even to this day. I look back at that time, and that's when I really feel like I handed my life over to the Lord. Even though, I've had some unfortunate things go on since then, I honestly believe that I made a legitimate profession of faith then, and I understood that Jesus was who he said he was. He died on the cross for my sins and rose again, and I needed him as my Savior. And so we went on from there, and I started playing piano, started singing, and I left the church. I didn't leave the church, but I left the praise and worship band that I was in. I still continued to go to church because I felt like the Lord wanted me to do so. And when I got wrapped up in my secular music industry uh, with the wrong music, I had the wrong music and the wrong types of relationships. And I really honestly believe that music affects your life. Like in my circumstance, it really affected my life. But even what you listen to on the radio affects your life, affects your demeanor for the day, it affects how you think. Um, and cramming secular music into your head constantly, isn't necessarily. I mean, there's a lot of secular music that there's nothing wrong with, but
Then there's the rest of it.
right, it's not spiritually fulfilling. It's not leading you in the direction towards the Lord. And and so I unfortunately, uh, just as I was all wrapped up in that, wrapped up in in wrong types of relationships, I met a young lady that uh, I had wrong type of relationship with, and we ended up having a child together. And it honestly, it was very, very, very difficult time in my life, and I was like, I had, I had to just essentially come and step back and look at myself and say, Cannon, are you really who you claim you are? Are you a Christian? You're saying one thing and then doing the complete opposite. And
Lukewarm.
and that there was a very tough question to ask myself, and very, very, very tough. But I I looked at I looked over things. I prayed about it. I just began really getting back and reading my Bible, and I really felt like the Lord was was telling me, Ken, people mess up, uh, and essentially, the Lord forgave me for that sin, and because I repented of the sin, I didn't want to get back involved in all of that, but I also had to look at my life then and say, I'm not heading in the right direction, and ask the Lord, what direction do you want me to go in? And I said a little earlier that the Lord had kind of led me in a direction to do music for Him that glorified Him, and how I just kind of always shoved that to the side. But I came just to this realization that that would be a great first step for me to take as I try to move my life more in the direction of serving the Lord and doing the things that He wanted me to do. And so
So just to clarify, God took the fruit of your wrong decision and
yes,
used it to bring you back to Him. Is that what you said?
Yes, ma'am. Essentially, because I mean, for me, that circumstance was very very life changing.
Mhm.
Definitely. And I absolutely I have a little boy. His name's Caden, uh, and I absolutely love him to death. He's awesome. But it's just I have to also look at that decision that I made and decipher between the sin and the blessing that he is. And not all the times is that easy, and it's easy to it's hard to decipher between the two because it just doesn't make sense. Sometimes how God can just take such a terrible, messed up situation and something so wonderful and great come out of it. I guess that's just God's way of making things better.
Amen. Thank you. And what are you gonna do when Caden comes to you at age 4 and says, "I want to follow the Lord and be baptized"?
I sure hope he does. I'm praying that he does. I actually,
All
I,
right.
I know he doesn't. I know he doesn't understand much because he's still young. But I'm reading the Bible to him. Right now we're reading Jonah, and I don't know that he really pays attention to anything, but I really feel like the Lord's telling me, read the Bible to him, even though you might not think he understands, but you're reading the Word to him. And
Good.
I'll just read straight out of the Bible, KJV to him. I'm sure he doesn't understand.
Hey, it's a cool fish story nonetheless, right?
It sure is. He occasionally gets eaten by a fish.
Exactly. Well, tell us about, I mean, clearly you have made it through some difficult times, and clearly God has never left you nor forsaken you, and given you this amazing blessing. So paint a little bit of picture for us, having gone through all that. Where's your life right now?
Well, right now, I'm trying to serve the Lord with my music. Um, I haven't gotten back into praise and worship band. I have been doing some like side uh, gigs and stuff for some churches. Like last week, I did a youth conference at a church. It was a lot of fun. I played piano and sang. Just led worship there. But I'm also recording, currently recording new music, and uh,
Well, we love the new release, Bad Cinema. My girls are all over the house singing this little ditty right now. It is super catchy, and I'm excited about watching this grow and hopefully being part of the amazing things that are happening in your life. But tell us, what was the inspiration? I mean, is it the story that you shared with us, or was there something specific?
that song in particular, yes, because I was like, I had I was a bad sinner. You know what I'm saying? I still am.
All are. We all are.
And it was like as I start the song out, I'm far from perfect. Of that, I'm certain. You know what I'm saying? But in to me, that song, I personally, when I first had the song idea, I was like, that's it, fits me perfectly. But
Most of us, if we were honest, most of us.
and I really enjoyed recording that song because I put a lot of there was I think 140 instrument tracks in the song, so it took a long time to put that song together.
One of
But
those hours.
um, but I mean, absolutely. I love recording music, love performing, but I've
Well,
written. Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, go ahead. You've written what?
I've written a few other Christian songs. I have several that I've written. One of them, one of the names is "Get Low," and it talks about praying, and it talks about getting low and praying, and essentially, and it's the same style as the Bad Sin song is.
Are
All
they? So
pop.
now I can see where your influence kind of came from.
Yes, ma'am. And I've got another song that I had released previous to the Bad Santa song. The name of it is "Burn It Down," and it talks more about like Revelation and when Jesus is coming back. And that was a fun song to record as well because I tried to put a lot of like vocal. type effects in
Well,
there.
we're going to make sure that anybody watching knows where to get your music. So I'm just super excited, and it's really catchy and really fun. And I have 7 kids, and they all liked Bad Senna, so the odds are good. Okay, so with that, now this summit is really about encouraging young women. So I know that you have an amazing son, but help me out. What would you say, or what would you share with a teenage girl who is on her keyboard at home right now? What kind of encouragement can you give her?
Well, goodness. I would say one, don't quit because uh, you're sitting there for a reason. You know, the Lord gave you that talent for a reason. And the second, I guess the second thing I would say is make sure you're using that talent for the Lord, and make sure that if you truly want to pursue a music career, that Christian music career, that you need to be in the Word, you need to be praying. I don't believe the Lord will bless any music career that uh, a Christian music career that He's not involved in, because I mean essentially if it's about Him, then He should be involved. You can't have a Christian music career without the Lord involved. It just doesn't add up. But I, my main encouragement would just be spiritual encouragement, because fame is not necessarily what it's about. And I've had to come to that realization too, because when I was doing secular music, I was trying to see how famous I could get, and that's something that will take over your life, and
Out of pride.
definitely, and I've just had to come to a realization, singing for a small crowd is okay, that type of thing is okay, and because you got to understand that the reason you're doing it is to serve the Lord, even if you're singing just for the Lord. And,
So you have a music ministry. I mean, you're using your talent and skill for God is actually service.
right, and it's essentially, I would say, definitely keep practicing your piano or whatever your guitar. Keep practicing your singing. Consider if you haven't gotten voice lessons, consider getting voice lessons. Uh, they help a lot, and piano lessons as well. I mean, it's really nice to have someone that's alongside you teaching you, how to
So hone your skill
build
and
your
tool
voice.
up.
Right, correct.
Okay. Well, finally, Cannon, and I'm so grateful for the time this morning, but finally, what encouragement do you have for the young girl that's facing that spiritual battle right now? You've already gone through it. What kind of encouragement can you share with her?
I would honestly, I would go get some sort of spiritual counsel. I really would, because otherwise you're going to try to face this alone. And when I say spiritual counsel, uh, I would go get spiritual counsel from probably someone you don't necessarily know. Um, it's because they can look at your situation and uh, and kind of just gather. They have a wider perspective. It's unbiased. Because when I first the situation I went through, uh, having a son, uh, first thing I did, I actually went and spoke to a guy that was from out of town. They were doing a conference at a church down the street from my house. I went and talked to him. But he kind of just he stepped back, looked at things, and just kind of laid out for me, kind of how things really should work. You know me, madam, and I really felt like talking to someone that doesn't know you is a good idea. But you need to definitely make sure that that person is in the
A
right.
bigger perspective.
Right. And I also, I mean, I believe definitely go talk to your preacher, because I talked to my preacher about it. I get spiritual counsel, but from your parents, from other spiritual leaders in your life. Anybody going through any kind of situation, depression, uh, just absolutely anything. The Lord is the answer for all the problems in the world. There's not one problem that exists that the Lord is not the answer for. And I honestly believe, and I believe that the Bible displays that correctly as well. That just speak to the Lord, and not all your problems are just going to be poof to be solved, but the Lord will definitely help you with those. And
It's a great place to actually end this. And it was so great to have you today. And, as for me and my family, we totally think that you rock. Um, I appreciate your heart and sharing your story with us today. Is there anything else that you want to add before we sign off?
um, I appreciate y'all having me on. I really do, because a lot of times this will go back to the encouragement side of things. You work really hard on things for a very long time, and it and things happen. Things progress, and people get to hear your music. And thankfully, the Lord's allowed me to actually about a year ago uh, at a VBS, I was able to use my song and the Burn It Down song and give essentially a gospel presentation to some kids. And four of the fifth graders got saved. And that was, that's stuff that's encouraging, and being able to sit here with you today and tell other people, about my story and about how the Lord can be an encouragement in their life, it's a blessing to me. So I would
It's a blessing to us as well, and
appreciate
I'm really honored to have you here. Stay tuned for more inspiration of great leaders on the Girls on a Mission Summit 2014. But for more information about Cannon Moyer or his music, his story, and to keep up with them, I know that you can find him on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook at Cannon Moyer, correct?
and that's correct.
Okay. Well, be sure to stay tuned for more for the Girls on a Mission Summit 2014. Cannon, thanks so much for being with us today.
Thank
Have a
you
good day.
too.